Hello, my name is Tan, and this is the presentation to advocate for the removal of the segregated unit, in the case of Luca. So this is the content that we are going to talk about during the presentation. First, we're going to talk about the importance of inclusive education in Australia. So inclusive education means that all members of school community are valued, supported to fully participate, learn, develop, and succeed within the school culture. We have legal obligation to uphold the human rights, the child's rights, and the rights of people with disability. The Disability Discrimination Act in 1992 made it illegal to disadvantage students with disability compared with their peers, whether it's intentional or indirect discrimination. It's unlawful to refuse or fail to accept the student's application for admission. This is also known as gatekeeping. The Disability Standards for Education in 2005. These standards are to remove the obstacles to school enrollment, access, and participation for students with disability. This also further provide details about reasonable adjustments. So an adjustment is a measure or action taken to assist the student with disability to participate in education and training on the same basics. So on the same basics means that students have the opportunities to participate in education as the other students. They also have to meet the sustainable goal number 4 by the UN about ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education for all. As teachers, we also have to practice the teacher standards throughout our career. For example, standard 1.5, teachers have to differentiate teaching to meet the specific learning needs of students across full range of abilities. And then in Victoria, students have to follow the code of conduct to treat learners with courtesy and dignity to promote participation and empowerment. The transition to inclusive education. So the UNESCO Salamanca Statement in 1994 and the Discrimination Act 2005 play a key role in the shift to inclusive education, not only in Australia, but it's created a global movement and becoming an impetus for change in education. So between 1940s to 1970s, specialized schools was very common. But by the end of 1981, integration in education became a norm. And then the recent one, the Alice Springs Education Declaration, emphasized the need for inclusive and high quality education for young Australians. The Royal Commission have some recommendations about special schools, and by the end of 2051, there should be no students remain in those schools. What about a justification for abolishing the segregated unit? So segregation happens when people with disability are put in separation and exclusion from the community because of their disability. The current educational system keeps students with disability marginalized and sustain the ongoing disadvantages, segregation, and exclusion. The special classes violates the basic human rights, the rights of a child, and the rights of disability people. The education system need to provide and promote full inclusion. The UN Human Rights, Article 26. Education should aim to develop the full potential of individuals and promote greater respect for human rights and the basic freedoms. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 23, also support the child to achieve the fullest possible social integration and individual development. It's also aligned with the recommendations of Royal Commission about the phasing out of special education. Segregation does not equip people with disability for fully inclusive life. Research also confirmed the detrimental effects of segregated education on the emotional and mental well-being of students. They affect their academic achievement, attainment, outcomes, employment pathway, and health outcomes. Although inclusive environment provides students with more access to peer interaction, learners also face discrimination and isolation driven by othering. This is something we need to address in the school community. Um, but inclusion leads to better results for students with disability in terms of academic performance, social skills, and sense of belonging. Better adult outcomes after school, including future employment, health, and stable housing. Collogan reviewed the system treating inclusion as assimilation also hindered the process of closing segregated schools. That mindset forces family to constantly challenge their belief that inclusion is optional, not an entitlement. Such thinking poses challenges towards the transition from medical model of disability to the social model. It's essential to tackle this problem to make inclusion the norm. Um, let's talk about the benefits for stakeholders. So according to Bron van Brenner's ecological system theory, um, agencies such as the school, peers, and parents can have an effect on the development of individuals. So inclusive education can increase a sense of belonging and then further enhance academic outcomes and mental well-being for students. As for Luca, staying in the same class as his brother enables an easy transition at the beginning and then help him interact with peers. Findings suggest that peer interaction promotes confidence building and connectedness. A sense of belonging has numerous positive effects on students. They feel they being valued and accepted by peers and teachers. It also enhances their self-efficacy. They feel interested in the curriculum. Research shows that students with disadvantaged and minority groups achieve better academic outcomes in inclusive settings compared to their peers in segregated environments. We can also build better relationship with parents as they regain the trust in the education system. It reduces the pressure on students and their family because many parents describe the process of seeking inclusive education as burdensome and isolating. It involves heavy advocacy and paperwork demands. We can also raise awareness and educate all students together. Students without disability also develop patience and trust. It enhances their awareness and value of diversity. Students also benefit from higher quality instruction. Um, it can also improve the school climate and culture. School climate and culture was reported as obstacle to belonging, especially insufficient disability awareness leads to poor communication or when school personnel display negative discriminatory behavior. It can also make a teacher become more committed to professional development and differentiation to cater diverse learning needs. Teachers' lack of skills and knowledge in inclusive practices has been identified as an obstacle in promoting inclusive education. So, with appropriate professional learning opportunities, we can shape teachers' attitudes toward inclusive education. For the case of Luca, so Luca is a EA student and he has mild ADHD and low vision. So ADHD is a developmental disorder that begins in early childhood and affects both children and adults. So it poses some challenges. So he experiences unpredictable mood swings Might have difficulties prioritizing tasks and activities. He might talk extensively and often quickly. He may interrupt others' conversation and activities. He has short attention span and might struggle to collaborate. But he also has a lot of strengths. He's comfortable working with digital devices. He's very creative and resourceful, and he's a visual learner. So we're going to have some low vision. So he might face isolation in the learning environment. He experiences difficulty with reading tasks. He quite sensitive to light, and he might experience headaches triggered by eye strain. What about differentiation strategies? I'll be using differentiated instruction to differentiate content, process, product, and learning environments. Um, so information will be presented in chunk and scaffolding, along with explicit and brief instruction. Um, Junkin should be used to present new learning and material along with clear and specific goals to prevent cognitive overload. It enables students to absorb new information more effectively. Instruction should be broken down into steps in written and in verbal forms and visual aids as well. We also provide multiple formats and very representations of resources, for example, handouts, videos, flowcharts. Um, it's especially in digital format because it allows students to tailor the content into a format that suit their needs. For example, auditory access using screen reading software, and alongside with visual access using enlarged or restructured diagrams. We can also apply color-coded instruction and information. For example, the traffic light system to assess student understanding and readiness. For example, I understand it's green, I need help. It's yellow, I don't understand. It's red. Um, we should develop a study routine for students to support self-monitoring by providing him with a checklist. We can also assign a buddy to assist Luca in pair work or group work. We should give him extra time and break to allow him to walk away from the activities, take short breaks to help calm him down, and then give him some time to adjust his emotion, and maybe offer sensory toys. Um, we should give students access to breakout spaces because access to outdoor space with natural settings can provide students with common retreat spaces. Um, and then we can use assisted technology, such as text-to-speech apps to support reading, and then voice-to-text software to assist students in writing tasks. Because of his low vision, we should provide enlarged text or encourage him to use optical magnifiers. As for classroom environment, we should remove clutter, control noise level, and monitor lighting in the classroom. Research has identified noise, excessive or uncontrolled sunlight, and visual distraction as barrier for students with autism and intellectual disability. For reading tasks, we should provide reading material in advance to give students a head start with reading activity and narrow down the important text to focus on as well. So giving student access to curriculum resources is identified as a factor that enable learning in mainstream secondary school. As for assessment strategy, we need to provide individual test room to reduce distraction for him. provide additional time for examinations, and then allow him to use assisted technology for reading and writing tasks. To address parents' concern, we need to reassure them that differentiation strategies benefit very learning needs, not only students with disability. For example, strategies such as mixed ability grouping, scaffolding, and multimodal resources um, accommodate different learning needs and learning styles. Evidence shows that structured grouping with appropriate resources and scaffolding can benefit student learning.